To quote his son, he is an entrepreneur who also happens to be a photographer. And Rick Sammon is always up to something new. Welcome back to Techstination. I'm Fred Fishkin. And Rick, it is great to see you once again.
Well, it's always great to see you. I remember having so much fun with you out on the Oregon coast, right? That was really cool shooting. And, back then I had the big backpack and all the lenses and stuff like that. And now I'm shooting a ton with as my wife is, who you met, with the iPhone. It's just and the iPhone 14 Pro. It's amazing.
Well, we're going to talk about that. You're so well known for your photography, your many books about photography, and your generosity in teaching others. Today, we want to talk with you about two things. And one is that iPhone photography, the use of smartphones as a camera of choice.
Yeah.
And Rick, you use some of the and we want to talk about some new groups you formed too. And you use some of the very best digital cameras out there, but you and Susan love to shoot with phones. Tell me about it.
Well, I had a turning point. Susan's been inspiring me since the Oregon coast. What was that, 3 or 4 years ago? She's been inspiring me because, I would have all the stuff and we would set up all the tripods and stuff like that. And people would be gathering around her because she'd have the pictures instantly and be able to, process them with apps like Snapseed, which is one of my favorites. And so anyway, we went to Tanzania and I have a picture I can share with you. Okay. Yeah. We went to Tanzania in November. And I have my 15 to 35, I have my 24 to 105, and I have, my telephoto lens. Well, I use my telephoto lens a lot, but for all the wide angle shots, like this shot here, these wildebeest at the bottom of Ngorongoro crater, I use my iPhone. So my iPhone replaced on this trip, it replaced my 24 to 105, and my 15 to 35. I never thought I would be saying this. And, so I use it for my wildlife. I use it for my wildlife pictures, but also for my portraits. This beautiful Maasai woman here. This was taken in the portrait mode, which, as you you could take the shot and you could see the background, but you could also change the background. And for panoramas, this is the top of Ngorongoro crater. So after taking just really basically, here's another shot from the bottom of the crater. Look at the depth of field, look at the detail. I'm shooting raw. This is really important, I think, for people to hear that if you want them, just like with a digital SLR or a mirrorless, if you want the maximum quality, and I have side-by-side comparisons, you really need to shoot raw. So A, I'm having a ton of fun. B, I'm getting great quality. C, I'm traveling light. And maybe C and D, it's just, it's great to share. It's great to share.
Now, you mentioned shooting raw.
Yeah.
A lot of people probably have no idea what you're talking about, everyday folks, and why they should switch their phone to that. And does it matter if they want to share photos quickly? And tell us about it.
Oh, let me get out of screen sharing. Stop screen sharing for a second. I forgot who's doing that. Well, when you shoot a JPEG, the camera processes it, and it compresses the file. So basically, you take a picture and then it compresses it. So it's like it's like a balloon, a big balloon, and then it compresses it to a deflated balloon, and then it blows it up again. Every time you open it, you'll lose detail. So with a raw file, you can look at it as just like the best possible negative that you could imagine. And with the new iPhones, I think it's close to 50 megapixels. And the way you could crop in and you have the different lenses. So anyway, the camera comes set to the default, well, they call it something else. It's basically a JPEG, a compressed file. But if you want the best details, shoot the raw. Now, the disadvantage to shooting raw is they're really big files because they have so much information in them. So you are going to use up space on your phone. So what I do is I don't shoot as much. I'm careful about what I'm photographing, and then I'll upload them, to a hard drive, to my desktop or my laptop if I'm traveling, and then I'll delete some of the photos on my phone.
What about sharing the pictures, Rick? A lot of people, they're out and about and they want to share instantly. When you're shooting raw, maybe you're not going to be sharing as much. First of all, it's going to take a while to to transmit those huge files, right?
Right. Yeah. If you want to share right away, you probably don't want to shoot. You probably don't want to shoot raw. You shoot raw if you know that you're going to want to edit it. Like, Ansel Adams said, a picture's not done until you darken the edges. So in that picture that I had of Ngorongoro crater, I darken the edges. So I'm using another app. So I'm doing something else. But yeah, if you just want to share your fun pictures, like I have some fun pictures. I have a picture of Susan here. You can see like the joy on her face. And there she's photographing this elephant. It came so close. It's amazing how close the animals come. So Susan does not shoot raw, but for a shot like this, where I want to see like every grain of sand here, and every leaf of the plant there, I'm using raw. And same thing here. I wanted to see the smile on these people's faces, and actually, so I'm shooting raw, and then actually in the next slide you can see I'm enhancing it. I'm actually on my laptop in Adobe Camera Raw. But look at this. Look how much fun this is. This was actually a JPEG shot early on. This is processed in an app called Distressed FX. So it was actually pretty boring lighting. But with Distressed FX, I was able to add the sky, add the painterly quality, and I even added the birds. So I'm having a ton of fun, making pictures.
That's really amazing. Is there much of a drawback? Do you ever think to yourself, boy, I wish I had shot this with my big camera because I want to make a big enlargement out of it? Are there issues with the size of the sensor that you ever run into?
I have a printer here, a 17 by 22 inch printer. Most people don't make prints as big as 17 by 22. I've made shots of like that. I've made prints of that wildebeest image, 17 by 22. This is amazing. People don't just think, so what's Rick Sammon doing? Going to China, to one of the most exotic places on earth. This is called Five Fingers Mountain, and using his iPhone to take this panorama. Well, it's amazing. And here's actually the sequence of pictures from my phone. You can see that right here. You can see right here that is definitely an iPhone picture. So it's amazing, the detail, to answer your question, that these new cameras can create and capture.
That is terrific. So you mentioned some of the settings.
Yeah.
Are there others besides shooting raw that you advise people to use?
I would say, other than that, you could try I think I'm still screen sharing here. This is the portrait mode. Okay. So in the portrait mode, you're shooting a JPEG, but there's a picture on the left of the flowers. And, Ansel Adams, getting back to him, was known for making black and white pictures that glowed from within. This is picture on the right is with an iPhone in the portrait mode, so you could darken the edges. But you also might want to try the macro mode. I mean, these two pictures were, I think about the platypod, right?
Yes.
It's a little device here and you could order it with these two lights and stuff. These are macro pictures. So in addition to not using my 24 to 105 and 15 to 35, this has become my macro lens. Like, look at the detail in this picture. And then, people say, oh, you're going to use, well, with the iPhone, you can't control the depth of field like you can with the macro lens. Well, up here on the left here, well, actually, here's my original shot taken with the iPhone close-up. And one of the advantages, as you know, Fred, to using a macro lens is you could create that beautiful bokeh, control the depth of field. So look at the picture on the left. I control the depth of field on the right with this app called Snapseed. So I was able to, and you could control over here, I don't know if you could see it, but you could place the center focus anywhere you want and can control the depth of field to any point you want. So I would say play around, to answer your question, I'd say play around with RAW for the finest quality, but then also play around with the apps. Like, here's another Distressed FX app. Here's a pretty boring picture of the New Croton Dam, taken on an overcast day. It was terrible lighting. And look at the picture I was able to create with this app, Distressed FX. It's amazing, right?
Just terrific. And, you know, one of the things, and you're giving a good example of it here that you've talked about, Rick, is you travel all over the world. You've shown us China, you've shown us
Right.
the Tanzania,
Yeah.
but you also point out to people every chance you get, I think, that you don't have to go far. Sometimes you can just go in your backyard to get
Well,
great photos.
speaking, have you been to Olana? You know, where Frederick Church was and the Hudson River School of Painters? It's called, I think it's a Olana State Historical Park. Anyway, yeah, Olana. So here it is. There's Susan using her iPhone. What's amazing is if you have a mirrorless camera and you want an HDR shot or a digital SLR, you have to do a few things. And then, you know, some cameras process the HDR in camera, but if you want to do it the right way, you have to put it on your computer and jump through these hoops. These are JPEGs HDR from Olana. Look, that you can see from the detail in the floor to the sky outside, inside to outside. So the default setting is called Smart HDR. Like these pictures are just amazing to me. And look at this. Look at the dynamic range here. This is my bass guitar. You can see the silver, you know, down the bottom, and you can see my clavinova that we were just talking about coincidentally, you know, before this. And just play around with apps. Like I showed you the picture before. Photoshop Express has these themes in there. So I could create all these fun things in Photoshop and in Photoshop Express. So I would say I think you could hear the enthusiasm in my voice. And I have movies too that I could show you. I mean, the movies are just totally amazing. But if I could show you this shot might have been another turning point. You were here, right?
Yes.
You were there, face rock. You were there, face rock on the Oregon coast with the horse and rider. Look at the detail in the shadow. I don't know if you can see the birds over on the left. The sun isn't overexposed on the right. The horse's hooves are off the ground. Now, you've never heard me say about my photographs, hey, this is an amazing shot, right? You've never heard me say that. This is an amazing shot. And I didn't take it. This is Susan Sammon's iPhone picture. Here's my shot, and then here's the two shots side by side. Here's my digital SLR, and here's Susan's. This, for medium telephoto shots too, you know, that you could do this. This is another turning point. And I think this is, I was going to say it was the future. You know, I do have an example, Fred. I know we don't have all the time in the world, but I don't know if you could see the difference between the raw file here. You could see like every, you know, hair here, and up here you can't see the hair. You may be too small for your viewers to see, but in what I'm showing, it's just a huge difference. This is just a neighborhood cat, by the way.
You don't have to go far to get a good picture. Sometimes it's on your front stoop.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in addition to all of this, Rick, I wanted to talk about some of the groups that have been formed. The newest is pretty interesting. I guess Explorers of Life. A nice twist for you.
Yeah, this is the Explorers of Life. And, you know, actually, when Susan and I, in the early 80s, we headed up a marine conservation group called CDM International. And we went around the world. We collected fish for the New York Aquarium. We mapped coral reefs. We photographed different cultures around the world. We did all this stuff about the marine environment. And we were really explorers of life. And we have a zest for life. I love living life to its fullest. So, you know, the thing about the sharing that you were talking about, that's what the Explorers of Life is all about, is celebrating our lives, you know, with smartphones, although I only use the iPhone, smartphone photos and videos. And the pictures, like, look at this picture. I haven't even seen this because I go on here every day. This guy, Mike, says he's a big fan of wide angle photography. Look at another beautiful sunrise. Oh, here's the other thing that I forgot to mention. nighttime, because the cameras do such in the iPhone do such a good job of handling noise, we could take beautiful nighttime pictures, or a beautiful look at this picture. I mean, wouldn't you want to be there? These are all smartphone. I didn't want to say, well, she's using the iPhone 14 Pro. Oh, here's another. This is a very, very large array. It was a really boring sky. With that same app, Distressed FX, I made it a painterly look, and I put, like, a blur in there. So anyone this is a private group, and I made it private because I didn't, we want to keep out spam and political stuff and all that other stuff that makes the internet not fun. Look at this nighttime shot. So anyway,
Wow.
anyone could join this. They could just do a search, Rick Sammon Explorers of Life. And I mean, I'm looking at this picture. Can you believe this? 5 years ago, you wouldn't believe this was from a phone.
It's just amazing the progress that's been made. And that, I think, Rick, is one of the major selling points, if not the major selling point, for new phones today. I mean, a phone call is a phone call. A text
Right.
is a text. What changes in these new generations of phones seems to be the camera technology more than anything else.
Absolutely. And it's called basically computational photography. It's really, it's capturing it. But like I said, if with the built-in HDR, that is, you've never been able to get a picture like that from a mirrorless camera so quickly, so easily, and you've never been able to share it so worldwide.
And during the pandemic, there was another group, I think it was during the pandemic, you created, called Phototherapy. And that has many, many members too.
Yeah, we have about 6,000 members with Phototherapy. And I started that after writing my book, Phototherapy. I forgot the subtitle. I've written so many books. Phototherapy, Motivation, and Wisdom. And that's another private group, but it's a safe place. People can join. Because I think, photography is very therapeutic. I'm excited. I'm so excited about all the new stuff that I'm personally doing with photography. It's just so much fun. Groucho Marx said, if you're not having fun, you're doing something wrong. And I I believe that, and I try to have as much fun as possible in my life, as you know.
As I know, and it's just terrific. So besides what we've talked about here, what else is going on? I'm sure you're writing another book. I don't know what else is going on, Rick.
Well, I'm recording some online classes, which I'll talk about in a little bit, meaning a couple of weeks. But I'm working on some online classes, which are really, really exciting. I'm playing a ton of music. So many musicians. You mentioned Scott Kelby before we came on. He's a great musician. So I'm playing a lot of music. And the other thing I'm doing is I'm exercising. I exercise for at least 2 hours a day. Even in the cold, I go for an hour bike ride. If it's not raining or if it's not wet out with the leaves, and I go for about an hour walk. So I think exercising is really important.
And
Especially
outdoors when you
outdoor-
can, even in the winter, you're out there, I suppose.
Oh,
It's
I am.
pretty
I'm
cold
like
where you-
they call me I'm like the mayor of the street. I know everybody on the street because I'm always out there walking.
And if people are following you on Facebook, they can follow some of the legendary bike rides that you take as well.
Well, actually, it's funny. I don't know if you know about this app called Strava.
Yes.
Yeah, Strava is a great app. It lets you track it tracks your rides, and then you can share your rides, and they can be shared automatically. So it tracks your rides. So you mentioned legendary. So actually, they have these awards. If you do a ride more than anyone else, you become a Strava Legend. So, I get these notifications every once in a while that I'm a legend. But the other side of this, then when you stop, you get a screenshot that says you're not a legend anymore. So they want you to keep going. But I think being healthy and eating healthy and exercise and all this stuff is, so important to staying young at heart. Might be getting older on the outside, but I definitely don't feel like 73 on the inside. That's for sure.
Well, that's just terrific. So the website for more info, should we just steer people to ricksammon.com? They can find your photography, your
Yeah.
books, your music, and
Everything there.
it's for people who are listening, Rick Sammon,
Yes.
SAMMON.com. Rick, just great to see you, and thank you again for sharing.
Well, thank you. You're a great interviewer and a great friend, and all the best for 2023.